Hello and welcome to StroongeCast episode 87.
Part 3, the adult years.
I can't believe we've gotten to that point, and being an adult's not all it's cracked up to be. Check a previous episode for that one. But yeah, here we are. Here we are now. How have you been as an adult this week?
Yeah, it's been all right. It's been more about focusing on Jake, isn't it? He started his GCSEs. He's had...
They should be called Jake CSEs.
Yeah. He's had at least one exam every day.
Yep.
I think tomorrow he doesn't have one, but yeah. So
which is today for you. Unless you're Marie.
That is true. Friday. I always forget. Friday he doesn't have. But apart from that, he's, exams every day. But he's doing okay.
He's doing great.
Yeah.
He seems quite positive as well, which is fun.
He is.
Good
He's
stuff.
quite a positive guy, though.
Yeah,
he's
for sure.
not,
Super chill. I love that.
He is very chill. I mean, he has worked so hard. He's been in the library every day after school until like 7 o'clock.
Listen, I can tell you he was far more studious at me at that age than I was.
Yeah.
I hated any kind of work like that. If it wasn't practical, I didn't want to do it.
Yeah. But no.
Which
So,
segues
apart from
nicely
that-
into the thing, but I'll tell you about that later.
Yeah. Apart from that, it's been a quiet week.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of anything. Oh, I do have an exciting trip out tomorrow or Friday.
Yeah?
Now, depending on when you're listening. I'm going to see ABBA Voyage with my sister.
Yes, you are. It's going to be good fun, isn't it?
I cannot wait. We are big fans of ABBA songs. We grew up listening to them on repeat in my mum's car.
Yeah.
So we both are basically word perfect.
Nice.
So that's going to be really, really fun.
Done all your practicing?
But, well, I don't think you ever forget, honestly. When I was playing Just Dance with Alice the other day, and it was an ABBA song.
You should talk about that. That was fun.
The Just Dance.
Just the whole Just Dance thing was
It is
fun
really
to watch.
fun. It's hard. It's a lot harder than I thought because you're just doing the dance moves in real time. So it's not like learning a dance where they're like, this is one step and then this is the next step. You're just following as it goes. But it's quite a workout.
Yeah.
But it was fun. We had a good time.
Yeah, it's nice that you're doing that together. Bit of mother-daughter bonding.
Yeah.
It's cool.
So yeah, that's about it for the week. And tell us about yours.
I have been sinking many hours into my wonderful app. It's just becoming, as far as I'm concerned, better and better. I'm really enjoying it. I'm actually getting a lot of feedback on it. So it's doing...
Well, I think Jake gave you some really good feedback the other day.
He did. That made my Sunday, I'll tell you. He said, you know what, Dad, I didn't expect your app to look anywhere near as good as it does or to be as fully featured. It even looked visually good.
Yeah.
So the AI has done a good job in both aspects. I cared about the usability and keyboard aspect, and it has done visual things. I haven't even had it described to me yet. I should. Might be fun to do that.
Maybe it can describe itself to you.
True. I can use AI to describe it. I had also this presentation on Wednesday. That went down well. I was so nervous before it. I know I was talking to like 10 people overall or something like that. But it was absolutely fine. As I get into the flow and I become far less nervous. But that first few minutes, I'm shaking and it's just, got to talk to people about life, the music and everything. And it's hard. And I don't know why. I do this enough. But it's, stage fright's a real thing. And then you get into it and it's fine. I also, there was a lady in there called Catherine. And I went to school with her. And I know that because her last name was something that I remembered. And I thought, it's a fairly common name, but how many disabled people with this name could there be? And it was the same person. And I was just like, wow.
Such a small world.
Such a small world, absolutely. It was really cool. So
especially as we're talking about school and stuff. And
exactly.
then you reconnect with somebody.
From school.
From school, yeah.
I'm hoping she'll reach out because I said, look, I've got a contact form on the website. Drop me a message. It'd be nice to see what you're up to and stuff. Because I wasn't able to take any notes there, and there were people in the room, so we didn't. But it would have been really cool to link up, so that was nice.
Yeah.
Today, actually, after this recording, I should, all being well, be back to the piano shop with LJ. Haven't heard from her this morning, but I'm assuming it's still on. She did ask me the other day, so I'm kind of going on vibes. We'll see. I've got a bag packed anyway with all the recording gear and all that. So next week I'll be able to let you know how it goes or doesn't. Hopefully it does. But I'll be able to record lots more lovely sounding pianos, which would be lovely fun.
Very cool.
Yeah. Honestly, that's been my week, apart from one Tuesday lesson that I teach in the college, but that's it, usual stuff. But yeah. And I think... Oh, no, it's quiz first, isn't it? Not comments.
Yes. Quiz first. Which James did actually get correct.
Nice one.
We will read that comment out when we get to it. But it was unofficially what is the most expensive number plate ever sold in the UK.
Yes.
And it is VIP1, bought by a big motoring world tycoon for £2 million.
Pocket change then.
Oh, so much money.
Wow.
He's the CEO of a company called Big Transport. He also owns Big 1 as a number plate, Big 2, Big 3, and Big 4.
Money. Lots of it.
I know. So this week's quiz question is, which country is credited with inventing ice cream?
Oh, wow. I do not even know that.
Yeah.
Intriguing. All right, come on, Marie, James, pull your hats on.
Right, comments. So we've got lots of great comments from James.
Across both episodes, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll just go back to the previous episode, part 1 of the trilogy.
Yeah, I was thinking of that word. It is a trilogy.
It is. So he said, with regards to the bluebirds, I think it was mentioned you thought in another comment, or I can't quite remember, but whoever wrote the song about bluebirds is absolutely spot on. It isn't literally about bluebirds, it's about hope. It is suggesting that at a particular time there was none. It's kind of like saying you've got as much chance of change as you have of seeing bluebirds over the white cliffs of Dover.
It was Marie who said that, because she talked about the...
Yep. She did, now I remember.
Yeah.
She did say that they're not there, so that's why.
Clever.
In the same way that we might say something like, yeah, right, and I'm the next prime minister, etc. So to clarify, they absolutely knew what they were talking about.
Oh, wow. Would that be classed as hyperbole?
A hyperbole?
Hyperbole. When something's hyperbolic, you say like, I'm going to be the next prime minister. It's hyperbole, isn't it?
I guess so.
Yeah.
The next comment from James, again on that.
Hi, James.
Hi, James.
Stranger.
I think your eyes not being able to tell the difference between light and dark probably had a huge part to play in your not sleeping. The older I got, the harder it's been for me to tell the difference between light and dark, and that has affected my sleep. I believe it's to do with one's eyes needing external change to stimulate the production of melatonin. That is so interesting and makes so much sense.
I have heard that. That's what that we talked about it, I think, in one episode before, called non-24. There's something called non-24, where you just don't have a 24-hour sleep cycle. Not sleep cycle, but day cycle.
Yeah, there's lots of things that affect that, like mentally and stuff. But that makes a lot of sense that, your body is triggered by certain cues.
Yeah, it is.
And they always talk about for good, what's the word? It's like good sleep pattern, but it's not. There's like sleep health, I think they call it.
Yeah.
And they talk about like having these repetitive cues to trigger your brain and your body into, this is the time that we wind down. It's the not using your phone. I know that doesn't apply to you, but not using your phone an hour before you go to bed, because the lights kind of, there's
all of
a
these
certain
things.
light from the phone that,
they become
sort of
like
triggers your brain and stuff like that. And like when you're sleep training or trying to get babies to sleep, making the room dark and everything quieter, like all those triggers. And I guess if you
becomes
are
psychological,
out
doesn't it?
on that,
in a way.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Intriguing.
And then the last comment on this one from James was, yes, I think how long the assessment process took depended on where you had come from and what was required for you to get to and from the college, i.e. my assessment, I was only there for 2 days, but a few others with whom I met had been there for a chunk of the week, but on the same assessment.
Yeah.
So that was about you going
to Worcester for a week.
For the week, yeah.
I suppose it didn't make logistical sense for them to send someone up from London for 2 days and then back again. So they just kept me for the
because
week.
I guess by the time you get there and, settle in and all of that, it's not.
I think from what I remember that I quite enjoyed my assessment, but I don't really remember the week very much.
It was probably quite fun for you. It was like going on a little holiday.
Yeah, I think it kind of was.
New things and places and
Things
food.
to see.
You and your food.
Yeah.
Okay, so last week's episode, part 2. We'll start with Marie.
Hello.
Hello, thank you for your
YouTube
comment.
member.
And she says, I remember hating all of my teachers when I was younger, but now I've formed some pretty amazing relationships with my teachers. One of my teacher's aides became my godmother last year when I was brought into the Catholic Church. So that just goes to show that time really does help with a lot of things.
That's incredible, actually.
That's really nice.
It's a nice relationship to have, for sure.
And then the second one is cromulent, ? I have never heard of that word before and had to ask my Echo what it meant.
It's a great word. More people should use it.
But anyway.
I sent you the definition of it this morning as well.
Did you?
On WhatsApp, yeah.
I didn't see that. Wow, that's awesome. I can also see why you wouldn't like coconut. Coconut is very interesting. I love it and could eat it all day long, but I would have to figure out how to get into the damn thing first.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
It's like Marmite. You either love it or hate it, I think.
Well, there's so many different forms as well. Drink it, flake it,
Turn it into a Daft Punk song.
Yes.
Eat it, smash it, crash it, beat it.
Sticking with Marie's comments, I actually got a label maker recently. My aunt bought it. It's one of those ones where you can actually use a Braille keyboard or you can connect a QWERTY keyboard to it.
That's a good sounding one. I ain't got one like that. Mine's just old-fashioned clicky, clacky clockwork.
And you just Braille what you want to on the label and it comes out of the back. Then you push a button to score the label and it splits in half. I have tons of rolls of Dymo tape as well that came with
wicked.
it.
I don't even need it, but I think I want it.
Everyone wants a label maker. Those things are great.
Yeah.
I remember we had a thermoform machine that would raise pictures if you drew on this paper that kind of felt like leather. It was called swell paper, and you used a marker to make out your shapes, and then it would put them in the machine, and then you would put them in the machine, and they would swell up basically. But thermoform Braille was awful to read.
Yes, it
was actually very, very painful.
Do you know what?
I haven't read any in a couple of years, but my God, did it hurt.
I was trying to think of something that you could relate to, right? It'd be like reading Braille off of a shower curtain. That's the best thing I can think of, genuinely. That's what it kind of felt like, as a shower curtain.
Wow.
Right? And you had to read that for a lot of maths books because they had diagrams in. So you'd have Braille on maybe one part of the page.
Do you get like friction burn? Like friction?
Well, you're not reading like, G4 speeds unless your name is Emma. There was a girl who could read at like sighted people speed, and she could read aloud as well. She was like the most phenomenal Braille reader I ever knew.
If you're reading a textbook or something like that and
it could make you numb fingers because bumps just going under your fingers all the day long.
Yeah.
So it kind of was annoying, yeah.
And then she says, I loved goalball, but I never actually played it on a team. I would play when we had sports days and things when I was younger, but I still haven't chucked up the courage to find a team here in Virginia. One time I went shooting about 2 years ago and I shot a .22 caliber pistol and a real bolt action rifle, and I managed to hit a water bottle. It was fun. The water bottles were set up as targets. And she also says, I am also afraid of bears like Charlotte, but I love to listen to their calls. I know, ironic.
Well, you can do that, you see, comfortably because you're not near them. So it's safe.
Yeah.
It's safer that way.
Yeah. So now we move on to James' comments.
Nice.
He said, yeah, we definitely learned to light gas in that class. Incidentally, the fountain Andre mentioned earlier in the episode, I was approaching it from a different door, which I didn't normally approach it from, and, splash.
Yeah. He wasn't the first or the last to fall in that one. A lot of people fell in the fountain.
Oh my
It
gosh.
happened.
That's crazy. I'm guessing it wasn't a very deep fountain.
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
I wonder if you got pictures of it from 2008 when we were there.
I don't think I do.
We'd have to look. Because you took quite a few pictures on the camera. We got a new camera that year, I think.
Yeah, but whenever I've looked back at pictures, I never see anything like that.
Oh,
I don't
wow.
know.
You know
I'll have
what?
to have
Maybe it's
another
on
look.
Google Maps.
Maybe.
How cool would that be?
And then he says, I think I had a discussion with you about going to RNC as I'd always wanted to go there to do their music tech course. Then I think you were approached at the same time or within hours of each other by Mrs. Smith, who dealt with the application process for Worcester's transitions from there to further education.
He's right. I forgot about that.
He then said, oh gosh, I forgot about the baguette. That was just a baguette without any garlic butter. What a letdown, lol.
It sucked so bad.
And
We
then
were so
Oh,
hungry.
can you imagine? And then he said the most expensive number plate ever to be sold in the UK was VIP 1, purchased for around £2 million by 2K tycoon Peter Waddle.
What
That's
great
what
name.
the internet's clever spiders tell me.
Ava
anyway.
Waddle.
And the last one was, our year didn't have to do the prep in the library. We started with prep in the classrooms. So I wonder if that was just for the lower first, because you were a year below me.
Yes.
Not surprised they got rid of that. Several accidents waiting to happen, and indeed plenty did.
Yeah, they did. And the thing is, right, you're the smallest people in the school. Why would you make small people carry heavy machinery? It's
Tiny.
absolutely stupid when you look back.
Definitely.
It was the 90s, but that's no excuse. It was a different time, but even so. You get done for
the
that. now.
90s, I don't think there was really like the same safeguarding.
Safeguarding. That wasn't even a word. Oh, now that we get to this episode, it reminds me of something I did.
Okay, go on then.
A bit like when you came to mine and your phone couldn't pick up any reception and your parents were freaked out.
Yes.
So one lunch, I'd gone into town the day before and I bought some walkie-talkies. And they happened to work on the CB band, which is the Citizen Band radio, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I managed to talk to, because Worcester was, big open space, loads of fields. So your signal went really far. I remember talking to some old man in the middle of Worcester.
Oh my God.
It was interesting. Talked to a lot of people, actually. And I bought them and I set a trend. A lot of people went out and bought these same walkie-talkies. Because
You were how old?
Do you know what? I don't know. 14, 15, maybe?
Okay, but like teens. You weren't like little.
No, but I did start a trend and we all got them and they had multiple channels on them, 8 channels, I think. So you could then talk between houses. This is pre-Wi-Fi, so pre-MSN Messenger and things. So radios were the aim of the game. So a bunch of people went and bought them. I was like the first. And I ended up talking to this guy. And he said, you're on a handheld thing. It sounds bad. I'll give you a CB radio. Why did he do that? I don't know. So one lunchtime, we arranged to meet. This sounds so sordid and so stupid. And the thing is, the gate never had a security camera over it. So you went to the front gate of the school and basically you were off campus. And there was no one ever manning that gate. So I walked to the front gate at lunchtime in between lessons. Didn't tell anyone where I was going.
Oh my gosh.
I feel so stupid. Anyway, he handed me this big bag with a battery charger, 10 batteries, a radio, and I went back to school.
What did you remember anything he said?
No. But he could have kidnapped me.
He could have kidnapped you.
Like, I could have been completely not heard of forever again. I don't know why there was no security on that gate. It was wide open, right? You could have come in off the, from off campus at any time. And the front door wasn't close to the gate. Never has been. So you come in and you go out however you like. And that was that. Maybe it's different now. When I look back, how could I have been so stupid?
I'm almost 100% sure it would be different now.
I hope
You wouldn't
so.
have a school with vulnerable children from quite young ages open to the community. Like, it just wouldn't.
It was mad. To be fair, I did use that battery charger for about the next 8 to 10
Did you
years.
continue speaking to him afterwards then?
I think I did for a bit, yeah. And he was, a genuinely nice old man. But he didn't...
Well,
could
yeah.
have
I
been
mean, he
all
just
wrong.
wanted to do something to help you. And that's really kind. And it's really sad that our initial thoughts are, oh my gosh, why did he do that?
I know.
Like, he was genuinely just doing something nice for somebody.
I more meant me, though, not him. He was being nice. But, as a parent now, my first thought is, are you stupid?
But that's what I mean. Like, the world it's so sad that that's what we go to.
Yes.
you know, that
Agreed.
because you have to be like that.
Like Santa's lap.
But that's a whole different podcast episode.
True.
So we do have a really nice message.
Essay.
From Pam, who you mentioned in last week's episode.
Yeah.
Who looked after you when you were really tiny.
She was like, in a way, my school mum.
Yeah. So this is quite long, but I think it's so lovely. It deserves to be. And she took all that time to write it. So.
I haven't read it, by the way, on purpose. Okay. I have held off on listening to this, so you all get to hear it with me.
Do my best.
You got this. Remember, you're turning the phone sideways.
I know. I've done that. I know. Listen, drink your tea whilst I'm talking. So she says, "Hi, Andre. Here's the information I promised you regarding my time in London and my time spent with you. In 1984, we were living in a suburb north of Chicago. David was working for First National Bank of Chicago. He was a senior vice president there, and his job was analysing and making large commercial loans to businesses. He was very good at what he did, and in late 1984, he was offered the chance to transfer to London, where he would be doing workout loans. The loans he would be trying to work out were to countries in the Middle East like Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, UAE, etc. It seems those countries or businesses in those countries had borrowed money from First Chicago, but for whatever reason were not paying it back. The bank had written off the loans, but still wanted to recover as much of the money as possible. At the time, I was working for Equitable Real Estate as a secretary/office manager. We were in commercial real estate. I loved that job and all the people at the business. They were a great group of people and we all enjoyed working together. When David was offered the job in London, it didn't take long for us to decide he should take it. David would have to travel to the Middle East, but he would be stationed in London. What an amazing opportunity. It was always the plan that we would be there for about 3 years. He moved there in December 1984 and I joined him in March of 85. It took a month or two to get settled in, but we loved every minute of it. I would have been legally allowed to work there, but I decided that I would rather just enjoy what London had to offer. I started looking for some adult classes and found a great class that met weekly where I could learn about some specific areas of London for an hour, and then for the next 2 hours, the instructor would take us on a walking tour of that part of London. It was a fantastic class. I also signed up for piano lesson class.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah. I enjoyed that very much and kept taking lessons from one of the instructors the whole time I was there. But 10 months after moving back to Chicago, I had Susanna and allowed myself to get busy and didn't keep it up. I wish I had stuck with it. Anyway, while I enjoyed these classes very much, what I really wanted to do was work with children. It didn't matter to me what I did, but I wanted to find an opportunity to spend time with children. So I asked around and finally found an office in London where I was told I might be able to work in a day nursery as a volunteer. It didn't take long for them to find a place for me. They told me I could go to Clare Gardens and meet with the director there, who would be able to work out something for me. After meeting with her, we agreed that I would come in on Mondays and help out in one of the classrooms. I never really thought about it before, but now I wonder if the reason they sent me there was because they knew you were there or would be soon coming.
Could be.
As a child with special needs, they might have thought those teachers might need a little help. I don't know. All I know is it was the perfect place. On my very first day, your mum brought you into the classroom and you were not happy. You were only 2 years old and didn't want your mum to leave you there. You were very sad and even crying, if I remember correctly. When your mum left, I came over and tried to make you feel better. We started playing and talking, and that was all it took. We became fast friends. I was usually there before you on Mondays and couldn't wait until you got there. After a while, you would walk into the room and immediately call my name. I would answer and you would work your way to my voice. You would walk into obstacles and just work your way around them until you reached me. It was so great. Every week, I looked forward to spending time with you, and you were always happy to see me too. Occasionally, you wouldn't be there, and then I just played with other children. They were all nice kids, and I enjoyed those times too, but you and I had a connection, and I really missed you when you weren't there. I know I missed a few Mondays myself, and I thought about you and wondered how you were on those days. When your time at Clare Gardens was almost over, I learned that you would be going to John Ed School. I asked about continuing to be with you there on Mondays as well. They were very accommodating, and as you know, I did spend time there with you. They were a little different because while Clare Gardens was basically playtime, you were actually learning skills at John Ed, so my role was different, but I still enjoyed watching and participating when asked. Your class only had maybe 4 or 5 kids, if I remember right.
Yeah.
That was a great number because the teachers were able to give each of you plenty of attention. They took you on a few field trips and I was able to go along. I think your memory of me taking you places was because I went along on those trips. Once we went to a place with a water wheel. I don't remember what that place was called or where it was, but it was a very nice outing. We all went in a van, and while we were there, I think we had a picnic. We also went to Kew Gardens. I feel like you talked about that.
That's the one I kind of remember.
Yeah.
Very vague.
We also went to Kew Gardens once, and maybe another place too, but I don't remember where. On that trip to the water wheel place, I always remember a funny thing that happened whilst riding in the van. There was a little girl, I think her name was Sabrina, and she was a sweet little girl. She was sitting in the seat in front of you and me. She turned around, had her hand on the back of the seat, and was trying to lean down behind the seat so she couldn't be seen. She said, "You can't see me." You reached your hand up to the back of the seat and touched her hand, and then you said, "I can see you." I got a kick out of that.
I feel like I vaguely remember that.
One day at John Ed, the teachers were having a music class. It was an upbeat lesson and all the children were encouraged to keep time with beat. They all struggled to do it while you sat there effortlessly keeping the beat and enjoying every minute. That sounds just like you.
It starts there.
We learned that we would be going back to Chicago at the end of July 1987. David and I really had mixed feelings about that because we loved our time in London so much. Anyway, I asked your mum if she would allow us to take you out with us for the day before we left, and she agreed. We didn't do much, but I think we went to lunch and then to the playground on Rotten Row in Kensington Gardens. You didn't know that we were getting close to the playground, but all of a sudden you said, "I smell sand," and I was pretty impressed by that, and obviously I still remember it. So we played in the playground for quite a while and hung around the park before we took you back home. We all had a very nice time. The next part of the story still breaks my heart. You did know that I would be leaving London, and that is probably the last time you would see me before I left. So when we got to your mum's place, you grabbed the railing on the fence outside her door and wouldn't let go. You were crying so hard and saying you didn't want to go home. Your mum was trying to help, and when we would get you free, you would grab the fence with your other hand.
Oh dear.
And you were so sad, and I was so sad that you were so upset. It was terrible. I didn't know what to do, and your mum didn't know what to do. There was no consoling you. So we all decided that David and I should just leave and let your mum try and help you, and that is what we did. I don't know if that was the right thing to do or not, but we really didn't know what else to do. You were only 4 when I left London. On the bright side, I had asked your mum if she would write to me so we could keep in touch. I always wanted to know how you were doing. She agreed, and she did just that. We wrote to each other frequently. I think we sent each other a cassette tape or 2 just so that we could hear each other's voices. I give your mum all the credit. By writing those letters, she kept our friendship alive. I could be wrong, but I think the earliest memories for most people are around the age of 4 or after. I'm very grateful for her efforts. When Susanna was about 6 months old, David had a business trip to London, so we all came. Your mum brought you over to the hotel where we were staying so we could see each other. It was such a nice time. The next time I saw you, you were in Worcester. I think it was in 2000. We came to London for spring break. My kids were about 9 and 11, and we were staying somewhere near Stonehenge. David kept the kids, and I rented a car and drove up to Worcester so I could see you. It was so great. I very much enjoyed seeing how well you were doing. Then, of course, the next time I saw you was at your wedding. What a great
Yes.
time that was. About 2 weeks ago, I was talking on the phone with my best friend from Equitable Real Estate office. We were catching up when he called me for my birthday. We were talking about old times and, of course, our families. He asked me when I left that office. I told him it was in 1985 when we moved to London. He said he'd forgotten that I went to London. So your ears might have been burning because I told him all about you and ended up telling him how we went to your wedding and how we are still friends. He was blown away. He said that was the best story he'd ever heard. I have one more thing to tell you. On the StroongeCast, where you talked about Jake's girlfriend, I was again driving to work and decided that I would send you a comment that day when I got there, but then I got busy and forgot. So I'll tell you now. I can't remember now exactly what was said, but it was to the effect that parents need to be careful about what they say to their kids about the boyfriend or girlfriend. I should really go back and listen to that one. Anyway, I had an issue with Danny that I needed to be very careful about. He met this lovely girl when he was a freshman in college. They dated almost all the way through college. We got to know her and she was a really sweet girl. She came from a nice family. Through those years, though, it was easy for me to see that while she was a very sweet girl, she was not the right girl for Danny. They really did not have very much in common. The details are not important, but a mother knows her child and is able to see what the child might not see. So right before Christmas of his senior year, I knew that Dan had bought an engagement ring, but he had not given it to her yet. He was at home on Christmas break, and one day I went into his room whilst he was still being lazy in bed and told him I needed to tell him something. Of course, I got the look. So I told him that if he married Hillary, I would have been very proud to be her mother-in-law. However, before he asked her to marry him, he should make sure that they have enough in common to last a lifetime. Then I left him alone. My daughter later told me that he told her what I said, and a couple of months later, he made the difficult decision to break up with her. The lovely woman he is now married to is almost exactly like him. They both enjoy the same things. They both are into skiing, love the mountains and cold weather, and they were in the same photography classes in college. She was basically his best friend, even though they'd never dated. So they finally realized they belonged together, got married on the 31st of May 2014, and now they have my 8-month-old grandson, Rowdy. They are perfect for each other. I've always been glad that I made those comments to him, and he told me later that he was also happy about that. Anyway, I wanted to share my comment related to that StroongeCast.
Wow. Incredible comment. Thank you. And yeah, I feel like it dredges up some things, some thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Just the memory of the water wheel. I feel like, I don't know why.
You've spoken about that before. I remember you telling me about a trip and a water wheel.
Yeah. And the
It's
Sabrina thing, I feel like I remember that because I could see you. I could see with my hand. So yeah. She was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
What I remember about Sabrina is that she was very quiet and small, and her dad owned the Wimpy somewhere in London. Yeah, one of the
cool.
restaurants.
Nice. I just think it's so amazing that you and Pam have this friendship.
That she flew over for our wedding.
Yeah.
All that way.
But, you know, to sort of have a friendship with somebody from when they were a toddler up into adult years is just incredible.
Yeah.
Like, that must be so nice for her to have seen you, even if she wasn't physically here, but to sort of have contact with you and periodically seeing you throughout your entire life is just
I actually
incredible.
have a recording she sent me in my tape box, which I must digitize, of when Susanna was a baby and Pam was stacking up cups for her to knock down. And she thought I'd like the sound, and she sent me this tape, and I rinsed that tape.
Really cute.
I played that on repeat, and it wasn't until years later, like about 5 or so, 8, that I re-listened to that tape and realized, hey, the recorder she was using actually recorded in stereo. Mm-hmm. Typical me.
Of course.
But it was a high quality recorder she had, better than mine at the time.
Wow.
I must find that.
Yeah.
Wow. Good memories. And I'm glad my mum wrote and kept that up.
I think your mum always loved that friendship as well. I remember her talking about
She definitely did.
about Pam and David, and yeah.
And I think she was one of the, first to say, "Oh, you've got to invite Pam and David to the wedding," which I'm glad she did, and I'm glad they made it for.
Yeah.
That's not a quick trip.
So if we finally
I know.
start talking about the actual
This part
of
of
the
the story
podcast.
is probably quite short, to be fair.
Yeah. Well, I've waffled enough now. Not waffled because I've read stuff out, but I've talked a lot.
You did a good job, by the way.
So thank
And I'm glad I didn't read it ahead of time. I'm really grateful that you read that.
Yeah.
It's lovely.
It was really sweet. I feel the pain, though, that Pam would have felt of leaving you when you were upset and
Disconnecting.
everything. And, so sad.
I can feel it.
Yeah, I can. You can. You're just this little 4-year-old, and she's like such a special person to you, and
She was.
you don't know if you're going to see her again or what's going to happen.
And at that age, it's extremely hard. You have separation anxiety.
Absolutely, those are like really, really big feelings that you're feeling, and you don't know how to process them. And
No, not at all.
yeah. So we're going into the adult years, which are kind of like your late teens becoming an adult.
Yes.
So I don't remember exactly where we left off last time, but I think if we kind of go on to you moving, I guess, from college to uni.
Well,
Maybe?
from Worcester to college and then to uni, you see.
Oh, okay.
Because I left Worcester in 2000 with my great friend James, who hasn't left a single comment on any episode ever. Can't believe this guy. And we were in halls of residence. I don't think he was in the one next to me until the next year, but maybe he was. I actually can't remember. But I was in a Campbell Hall, and there was Armitage Hall next to that, and you could get to it just by walking down a little pathway. And RNC was really interesting because you had your own key to a front door, and it was like a Swiss lock. One key fits all locks. So you had a key to the door downstairs. Then you either took a lift or the stairs up to your floor. Then you had a key to enter your section of the building. And then that same key fit your bedroom door as well, but not any other bedroom doors because that would be creepy.
Yeah.
And I first learnt about these locks in 1994, I think, when I went to my dad's place. It was new then. He's still living there now. And he said, hey, this one key fits like 3 or 4 different doors in this building, but not any of the flats except mine. So I thought that was really cool. And he said there was like some kind of special, it was a normal Yale key, but it was just like a Swiss version of that. So it was very cool. He only had one key to ever remember.
Yeah.
And each bedroom, because essentially what it was, each bedroom had a button on the outside of the building, like an intercom system. So you really felt like it was your own space. It was
like
so cool.
Little flat.
It was a bit of flatette, all right? You had a bedroom and an ensuite bathroom. Every bedroom had that.
That is really nice.
And it really did make you feel quite adult.
Mm-hmm.
You had a built-in desk. There was a wardrobe in the corner, a bed, and maybe 1 or 2 chairs, I forget. But it was enough that you could have people over. Down the hall from most rooms was a common area with a TV and a phone on the wall that could phone other buildings.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a kitchen, which I mentioned last week was very not well kitted out. So people just were never there. Never there. I never saw a group of people congregate.
Because this is where you said then that you guys came thinking you would have to cook some meals, but actually everybody just went to the canteen. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So it meant that we just kind of, well, I wouldn't say they atrophied necessarily, but they just got stale because they didn't have to work for, those skills just kind of disappear or whatever.
Yeah.
Unless your name's Ed. Ed is still like a consummate cook
Yes.
and loves it. And I think that's part of it. I love the food aspect. I don't like the cooking aspect.
But you don't like your hands getting dirty or any of those kind of things. And you do sometimes, particularly if you can't see, you are more likely to have to use your hands and get a bit sticky, a bit dirty.
That's
just not your thing.
No.
No.
But I promise I will lavish praise upon whatever you feed me.
Oh, all right then.
So that's the thing. But the lessons were very different. And I remember, I think, one episode telling you that the way it felt quite lax in terms of if you turned up, you were there, and if you didn't, you weren't marked absent.
It's a bit
you just
more what sixth
missed
form
it.
is like, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're kind of in control more.
Well, that's it. No one made you wash your clothes, but you'd better do it. No one made you make your bed, but if you didn't do it, you weren't going to sleep.
Yeah.
And I think that Worcester really set us up very well to take advantage of that, because James and I never had a complaint from the staff, as far as I can remember, or anything like that. Although I think actually there was one lady that hated James just because she hated James and she was mean.
Oh.
But I never had that myself.
Poor James.
Yeah, he didn't deserve any of that. He was a good bloke. Still is. So yeah, that was really interesting. So you would leave halls of residence, you go across the road. There was a road outside the halls of residence, and then you'd be on campus and you go and do your lessons. James and I were studying music technology together, and we learnt on some very expensive equipment for the day. Really enjoyed that. I had a good 2 years there for the most part. Yeah, it was quite enjoyable, I must say.
No.
But it was a special ed college, so it was geared towards teaching the blind and stuff. So again, like Worcester, they knew how. So it was never a fear of, I can't do this module because it's inaccessible. I had more of that during university years, though.
Yeah.
It's weird, actually, because thinking about RNC, and it was, 2 years of my life, it doesn't feel like I had a lot to say about it. Oddly. I think maybe James would have different thoughts or different memories. We made some good friends there, for sure. But, in terms of, you just got on with it. And you kind of had to. You either did it or you didn't. You didn't pass if you didn't. But that was it. It wasn't not structured, but it felt like a very different environment.
It's a bit more free,
where
I guess,
we came from.
Yeah,
to the point where you could go to town at any point in time off campus, and you didn't have to sign out. With Worcester, you had to let your house parent know, right? I'm off.
Well, because
ask for permission.
you're older now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember the first time I went to hunt down they were called wardens, like a prison warden, of the building. And I said, I'm off to town now. So, you don't have to tell me that. I think she was surprised I bothered. It's like, really?
Aww.
What if there's a fire? So, I don't know. It's a thing. So,
wow.
Try to do the right thing. Anyway, after that, I didn't. But yeah, it was interesting because the train, as I said to you last time, was the same train line for me from London to Worcester. And, of course, being college, there was no booked train. You came and went when you needed to.
Yeah.
Right? So the number of times I had a sort of Pavlov's dog response to, Worcester, better no, don't get ready. Don't get ready. And there were 2 Worcester stations, so you could always, if you missed one, Worcester was big enough that you could get off the next one. Hereford's end of a line anyway, so it didn't matter. But it's not about another 45 minutes down the track.
Yeah.
So what I used to do sometimes, though, on the way home to London from at the end of term or something, was I would get off at Worcester, because it was the same train, just a different time. Even if your ticket had been stamped, you could still get back on the train later. Oh. So I would go early in the morning. Let's say sometimes we'd end on a Thursday at RNC, not a Friday. So I'd go down in the afternoon, spend time with my Worcesterites, and then I would just get a taxi to the station, get on the train, go home to London. And because it was late, my mum wouldn't meet me. She wouldn't need to. I get a taxi home. And it was great. It felt really like I had independence, and it was really free to come and go. And it was actually a really nice experience, I will say. And I'm almost certain I had a dream just like that recently, that I got in at 8, 9 at night. I told my mum I was coming. She had dinner ready. I went to my childhood bed. It was really nice, actually. Instead of a nightmare-inducing thing, it was like coming home.
Yeah.
That's great.
That is nice.
Just weird, but great. I remember one time, though, the halls of residence flooded at RNC, right? I don't know, there was a burst pipe or something. And because it was half-term, not end of term, I didn't take all my clothes home and all my stuff. Yeah. And apparently it got quite damp in the rooms. Ooh. So we stayed, those of us in that particular hall of residence, only affected us, in some kind of caravan that they put up, temporary thing.
Oh my God.
So that was interesting. Everybody still got a key and a lock and everything, But they put up all this temporary space for us because it was broken that badly. And I remember that someone called me. I had a phone then. This was early days of mobile phones. We're talking like early 2000.
Yeah.
Or maybe early 2001, maybe. And they're like, yeah, so I've got your clothes in a bin bag because you didn't leave any bags behind. But we're saving everybody's stuff from this flood. And it's in your new room. And I'll tell you more about that when you get back to campus.
Wow. Was any of your stuff ruined or was it okay?
I don't think it was. It just smelt a bit moldy.
Ew,
It was okay, though, from what I remember.
Yeah.
And I think I was able to wash it somewhere. There was some like laundry block or something. I don't know. It's such a long time ago. It's weird. Memories get fuzzy.
They must have had facilities.
Oh, yeah. In halls of residence we did. But as for where I washed them that time,
Oh, I see.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I left no electronics there because I never did.
No.
It wasn't my thing. But clothes, man, who needs clothes? I just go naked. It didn't matter. I had enough on me at home anyway. And I told my mum, and I think we maybe bought a few extras just in case.
Yeah.
And went back up with a suitcase and everything. So it wasn't tender world.
Yeah.
But it was interesting. And then we eventually did move back in. And my first room of hall of residence in the halls of residence was B15. So it was upper floor and then down the corridor. And the next one was C something else. And I don't remember what the C was, but C was the floor above. C20 something. But yeah, I remember B15. I don't know why. It just sticks in my head. But yeah, that's where I lived. Oh, that's where I met Ed, you know. Well, re-met Ed.
Yeah.
I met Ed at Worcester because his assessment was a few days. And we played on the BBC computers together. And he taught me something I didn't know. Ed, if you remember this, he taught me how to use function keys to basically type a big long string instead of typing it every single time by hand. I did not know that. He knew that. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
And we re-met in RNC. Ed had been there for a year before James and I got there. So he was in his second year when we went our first year. And he was down the corridor from me in Campbell. And what happened was, I'm trying to remember this. Your key, like I told you earlier, right? It fit your side of the building. There were two sides to the building.
Yeah.
And there was a connecting door in the common room between two common rooms. But your key didn't fit that door. That was a fire door and it was supposed to be always locked. And it wouldn't fit the other person's front door either. So you came in your door and that's it. However, for some reason on my floor at the time, that middle door between the connecting bits was unlocked or broken or something. So I could just go straight through, knock on Ed's door. Otherwise, I'd have to phone him or press his buzzer. Basically leave the building, go downstairs, ring his door, go upstairs and see him. But for about, I don't know, half a year to a year, that door was just, and it didn't matter. I don't know why they did it like that anyway. But yeah, there was no connecting the two bits. But I do remember one day Ed had a Windows problem and he formatted his computer and he didn't have screen reader working and he called me and I bombed down the hallway between the two connecting buildings and I did something and within a few minutes it was fixed and I went back again. To the rescue, yeah, I was. And you're too young to remember this.
Me?
And fortunate, by the way.
Okay.
Right? Windows, at that time, we were using Windows ME. Everybody says it's the worst version of Windows ever made.
Yeah.
And mostly, yes, it was. But Ed and I, formatted machines so often at that point, because we had so many problems, that at least I memorized the install code.
Wow.
25 digits long, and I memorized it. And I may even still remember it to this day. I won't recite it, but it is really, really sad. But that goes to show Windows was terrible. To be fair, Windows 11 isn't much better, but you don't have to install it every 5 seconds nowadays. But yeah, teacher-wise, we had a good time. I think Jez Nash is the teacher that I said a long time ago got me into sequencing the way that I do now. Very nice guy, exceptionally good musician. We were taught by two extremely good musicians. Cara Tivy was Billy Bragg's piano player.
I don't know who that is.
If you look him up, you'd know.
Okay.
I think she also played for Blur, but I couldn't swear to that.
Wow.
Yeah, like
Super
really
impressive.
crazy stuff.
Yeah, that's really
Super cool.
Yeah.
Paul Cobbold was our sort of head of the music department, if I remember rightly, and he engineered for Enya
Oh, I
And
do know who that is.
2 other bands, Clanad and the Waterboys. I've heard of them. I haven't listened to any of their music. Another guy, another Paul, was Paul Reed, and he engineered the first ever Coldplay album.
Wow.
So we were taught by some real heavy hitters, and it was a really, really cool course. I feel like James and I learned a lot there and had a good time. And you could book studio space on the weekends, so oftentimes we'd come in. We made a band called Mouse Mat. Me, James, and 2 other guys, sometimes 3 other guys.
That's fun.
And we have stuff that we have written. I've still got it, by the way.
Yeah.
I managed to save it.
That's hilarious.
So that's real cool. We had some cool tunes back then. I did a bit of rock piano. Yeah.
You should put something like that at the end.
You know what?
That should be the ending.
I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Make sure you listen, guys, at the end.
Yeah, there is actually a track, maybe like one of the last things we ever recorded.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it's called, but I will look and I'll tell you. It might be called like Tune Something. Excellent track, though. One of my favorites that we ever did. Mixed and recorded in RNC, which is Royal National College, Hereford. Lots of fun. Oh, yeah, it was called Track 5, even though we'd done way more tracks. I don't know why it's called Track 5. Maybe that's just somebody's CD that they burnt back then, because, you know, it was CDs and DATs and mini discs and whatever. So, yeah, Track 5 at the end of this. And it won't even hit a content match because it's rewritten by us. Nice. Oh, I'm looking forward to that.
So that was there, and then you moved on.
I did. So in 2002, I left Hereford. I'd done my 2 years. I got my BTEC out of it, which I can't even remember what it stands for now. But it's like a slightly higher level than A level without being a degree.
I think a BTEC is the equivalent of 2 A levels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I enjoyed my time there a lot, learned a lot about mixing and sound and audio and stuff. And then I went and did 1 year in Thames Valley University, TVU for short, where Jez now teaches, but he didn't teach there at the time. He was still at RNC. I did not enjoy my time at TVU for a few reasons. Namely, because I wanted to stay near the university so that I could go in each day much easier, right? This is London now, so I wasn't commuting by train or anything. I was taking a cab every day to get into university, and that added up a lot. And with no money, apart from student loan, which I didn't get for a while anyway, it was costing quite a fortune.
Yeah.
There were multiple reasons why my university experience was bad, and 1 or 2 reasons why it was really good. So the bad reasons are because, well, partly the commuting sucked, and my LEA was paying for it, this local educational authority. In the end, I got them to put me on an account, right? But it was with a cab firm that knew the family, and they were reticent to pick me up because then you didn't call an Uber, right? You just get a cab anywhere, and the driver could be close to you. Then you book a cab firm, and it had to be the same one. And Ealing to West London is not a quick trip. So they had to come 40, 50 minutes, an hour to get me, and then go back again. And I would get out the car and he'd be like, hang on, you haven't paid. Did they not tell you this was an account trip? And so it made all the drivers resent me, and it wasn't my fault.
Yeah.
And that account apparently built up and up and up to the point where they didn't want to take me for a while. And so that was interesting to deal with. Stress on top of being so far from thing. Yeah, it was horrible. Absolutely horrible. The other thing that made it interesting, and not at all bad, because I love my mum, but when your mum is your reader, right? When you've got materials to read and it's all print, and the only person the LEA could get to hire was your own mother, it means you kind of aren't cool, right? Oh, no. She knew my thoughts on this, and she knew that it wasn't like a slight against her or anything.
No, of course.
But she would try to leave as soon as lessons were done and say, right,
so
you make your own way home.
she was actually in the classroom with you?
Yes, every time. And all I could think of was, people must be looking at me sniggering, going, what a mummy's boy.
Oh.
It wasn't like that.
So hard.
Yeah.
So they didn't make any effort to have anything in Braille or anything that was accessible for you?
Very little. And PDFs back then were much, much harder to read. to the point where I came up at the time with PDF equals the piss me off document format, and it's stuck.
Yeah.
It's actually portable, but it'll be piss me off, and piss me off is compound word with dashes.
Yeah.
So anytime I get a PDF from university, I knew I was not going to enjoy the experience. It's much easier now. Like if I was doing this now, I think I would have a much better time because we've got all these tools now.
Yeah.
And like OCR and AI is so much easier, but my goodness, it was not a good experience. And I've talked a lot about the bad, but I have to tell you the good. The good starts with a pasty shop. As
food.
Look, as everything, it starts with food.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm being a bit facetious. It actually starts with two of the greatest human beings on the planet. Who am I talking about?
Ed and Charlotte.
Ed and Charlotte.
And not my Charlotte.
No.
Not my sister.
If there were two nicer people, I'm not even sure. But Ed and Charlotte became my lifeline and people that I have loved dearly for 22, 3, 4 years. I don't know. They made that year bearable. Because it's possible I would have left much, much sooner if it wasn't for them. I owe them a lot. A lot. So my cool mum, who was actually cool to be fair, would often... I got to know Ed and Charlotte because my mum said, right, look, I'm going to introduce you to people. And not be the like, look, here's a nice boy. Here's my son. And she was still young. She was young mum. So it was quite all right, She didn't look ancient and mumsy like in the bad way. Like, tuck your shirt in, what you doing? She could hang with the best of them, and she did.
Yeah.
But after lectures, we would go and meet people, and Ed and Charlotte, I think, either approached us or we approached them, and I explained my situation. I said, look, this is my mum, but not for the reasons you think. And they got to know us really well. They came to my house loads of times, and we became really fast friends. They would pick me up sometimes from home when we go to college together, uni together. And oftentimes they'd bring me home as well. Like I remember one time mum had an appointment to go to. She's like, I can take you in, but because the hospital I'm actually going to, I think it was Hammersmith she was going, it's quite close to Ealing anyway, I won't come and get you at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's like, fair enough. So Ed and Charlotte took it upon themselves to look after me and ferry me between lectures. Great people. Love them. Hardcore. Brilliant. And we're still friends to this day, like me and Pam,
Yep.
And it came to pass that we would traditionally hang out in the kind of lobby of TVU. So oftentimes we'd be waiting for a cab, as I said, 50 minutes, 60 minutes there. They could have been home by this point, but they would wait with me often, and mum would have gone home and started dinner. So we got to talking a lot of things, and we'd always go into this little pasty shop, and they had these, a bit like what you sometimes get for me, that the almost like panini type things.
Yeah.
That come on a bit of cardboard.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they sold there. And it was basically just a guy with a microwave, essentially.
Wow.
Yeah, and you paid for it. You're a student. What do you know? Yeah. And we'd all get one, and we'd all hang out and wait for the cab. And they put me in the cab, and then they go home. The best. I couldn't say enough good things.
Nice.
And, we went out to Kew Gardens as well, actually. We did I don't remember what it was for, if it was just because or if it was for a module. I think it was to do with sound, but I forget what. Anyway, there was an aquarium involved, I remember that. So one of the trips we took was to Kew Gardens. Mm-hmm. And that was fun. A lovely day out. It was really sunny that day. I remember we ate like a picnic on an outdoor table. Good stuff.
Lovely.
But we did music together as well in the early days. Not for a while now, but I'd like to get back to that with them. But they've been, having different priorities and what have you. But yeah, I saw Ed and Charlotte last year when we went to a concert for Adam F. And they're like, you've got to come to this concert. It's the first one he's done in ages. So they picked me up, didn't they, from here? Yeah. And you saw them briefly. And it's great, when you meet people that are so wonderful and you stay in touch with them for all this time, that is what makes...
it's a great friendship. It really is.
Yeah, and they came and took me out for dinner after Mum died and everything because, they knew her really well.
Yeah, of course.
And it was real cool to work with them. One day we recorded Chameleon, Herbie Hancock's Chameleon track, which is just like a jazz standard. And they're like, right, so we get to the studios in the university and the assignment was, record a track. So we start the track, or we go to start the track, and there's a problem. The problem is that you have to format the tape. Right? This is tape. But you have to format the tape in real time. Each tape is about 52 minutes long.
Oh my Lord.
Set the tape formatting, go to, obviously, lunch. Came back, tape was about ready, we record the track. They dropped me home. That's all cool. It was a nice experience, but just one of those things where pre-planning meant that we had to do something else. And so we had a bit of a wasted day, partly wasted day, sorry, not completely. But I still have that track kicking around as well. We managed to mix it. We got a live drummer to play on it, a guy called Ollie, if memory serves. And I'm doing keys. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
So much fun. So that's
then
good and bad.
Yeah, what was your sort of final straw that made you decide to leave uni?
Right. One of the lecturers was, you know, I don't even remember his name. He was an Irish guy. And we had to do a video module. I don't think I would have minded doing a video module nowadays because I know much more than I did then, right? But at that time, video for a blind person was basically pointless. It's not now for so many more reasons, phones and what have you. But then it was, you know, proper cameras, stuff that didn't talk, couldn't use the Mac to edit because VoiceOver wasn't yet a thing, and we were using Macs, yeah? There was software called Outspoken on the Mac, but it didn't come with it. Nowadays, you get a computer, your screen reader is built in. You can use something third party, like on Windows, for example, I use NVDA, but Windows does have a built-in screen reader, and I don't have to use NVDA, I choose to. But back then, screen readers were very expensive pieces of equipment, pieces of software, and you had to pay for them. And I don't think there was ever a provision for the university to put Outspoken on a particular Mac for me because it was lots of money, and they don't like spending money. Institutions very rarely do. So I said to this guy, look, I am blind, if you forgot. What would you like me to do to get the marks in this video module? And he looked at me, and I suppose, looking back, he probably was joking, but at the time I was asking very seriously. And he said, you can stand and hold the light poles. That was his response. Maybe a typically Irish response. It was snarky. But it didn't help me. But luckily, I was with Ed and Charlotte again, and we did manage to do something. I think it was involving a car, because one of the students we were friends with was a guy called Dom, and he drove. So I remember putting a camera on a boot with a magnet or something and driving. I don't know. I really don't remember.
You managed to cobble something.
We did a thing. What that thing was, I lose track. And there was another friend I made, you know, and I'm so upset I've forgotten his name. But he was, I think, a Chinese guy. And he took me to buy my first ever sound module that I bought myself. And we went to one of the many music shops that are now shut down. And I got to know him really well back in the day too. And it's silly. I cannot believe I've forgotten his name. He was a lovely guy too. I wonder if I've got a document with him written on somewhere, because I think we worked on an assignment together. I'll have to look, because actually that's going to bug me now. But yeah, he came and picked me up on the bus, and we went music shopping, and he stayed with me, and then he took me back home. So that was a nice day out. I hypothetically spent my student money on this sound module that was supposed to be used for my university. I mean, technically,
we won't tell anyone.
The whole thing was really that I was using it to make music for university, so that's how I'm swinging it, and I won't hear a word otherwise.
Nope, not from us.
And I had that module from 2001, I think, or 2, till 2008 or 7 or 8. You helped me sell it, actually. It was one of the first things you helped me sell on eBay.
Oh, wow.
So that was cool. So it was honestly good and bad. But James and I were talking about this on WhatsApp yesterday, right? And I said I missed him a lot because it was the first time in years that we'd gone off and done different things. And I just didn't have a connection with many people there. So no friends, new environment.
Oh, it's so hard.
And your mum. No disrespect to my mum. No. But you can't have and your mum tacked onto the end of everything you do.
No.
Do you want to go to lunch? And your mum. Do you want to go hang out in the pub? And your mum? Like, what? She'd laugh if she heard that. I know she would. She'd get it.
Of course.
She'd get it.
Yeah.
So that was the whole thing. And I did a year of that, and I just said, I cannot be bothered. I cannot be dealing with the stress. I'm not
Just
enjoying
weren't
myself.
getting anything.
And yeah, I tangented again, but James and I were talking about this, and he said, you learnt nothing. And he's absolutely right. I learnt not a single thing at TVU that I didn't already know.
Yeah.
Not a thing. And that's not like me. I know a lot, and I know more now, but James and I had already learnt so much at RNC that TVU was a genuine letdown.
Yeah.
The best thing to come out of it, Ed and Charlotte.
Yeah. And maybe, you know, that's what you were meant to get out of it.
Maybe that's it.
This friendship.
There's also a guy called Bransby, who I did a song with recently called Bees in My Head, which you really, really liked.
Yes.
So Bransby and I
did like
remained
that.
friends. My mum loved Bransby as well. He was a great singer. He came to my house. We recorded a song at in my basement bedroom a long time ago as well.
Yeah.
He sings and plays guitar like an absolute genius. Fantastic geezer. So I got to know him as well. So yeah, I made friends that I still know and still, you know, love to talk to. But I learnt nothing in terms of actual education. And I look back and I think that's a really, really sad waste of a year.
Yeah, it is. And they failed in helping you.
Yeah.
But
because
you
there's
got
no skills
the
I could take
friendship.
on to anything else.
No, that is true.
But I do have those wonderful friends. And I think you're right. You know, you got to take the good with the bad. And I try to always do that.
Absolutely.
So the best thing to come out of it, definitely Ed and Charlotte. I'll have to let them hear this. Let them know what they mean to me. Because they do.
Yeah.
They do.
Definitely.
Honestly, I left there and I went home for a year, 2003 to 2004. And then my mum wrote that all-important letter that got me my own flat. And I think I mentioned that before.
You did, yeah.
But yeah, I think this is long enough. I will leave it there. That's a whole other story. Although you may have already heard that, so depends.
Mm-hmm.
We already have, if you remember or if you feel like it, a topic for next week as well, which is you focused this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes.
But before we end, how about a story?
Well, I've done slightly different this week because I saw this and it made me laugh and I thought it would make you laugh.
Okay.
So this isn't technically a story, but it's animals with the most unserious names.
Oh, wow.
So this is like a list of a few. So we have the boop boops.
What?
This is a type of fish. Like it's a very innocuous looking, boring, sort of small-ish, thin, silvery fish called a boop boops.
That's brilliant. It sounds like the Beeps, you know, like a kid's show.
Yeah, it does. Then there's the dick.
No, you stop it.
Yeah.
This is the family show.
I knew about this one before, to be fair. They're just like these little deers. They're really cute. Just a little deer called a dick. Then there's the blue-footed booby.
Yeah, that's a bird. I've heard of
Yeah,
that.
that's a bird. And
You've got the little tit,
does
the great
have-
tit, don't you? All these different tits.
very, very blue feet.
Like that guy a few weeks ago with the duvet.
Oh, the bed egg, yes, and he's
Yep.
got blue. Then there's the Wonderpus photogenicus.
Photogenicus.
That's like an ostrich. Ostrich, honestly. Oh my gosh, my brain. What is it called? Octopus. There we go.
Like
Jeez,
octopus
ostrich,
energy.
Honestly. Then there's another type of fish called a slippery dick.
Oh my gosh. What is this? What is this?
There is the pobblebonk,
What a
which
great name.
is, it looks like a frog. I don't think it's a toad. I think it's a frog. Pobblebonk.
I'm really
Word.
wondering how the freaking AI transcription is going to handle all this.
Dumbo octopus.
Another octopus.
Yeah, just a little one. Looks really cute. Satanic leaf-tailed gecko.
Satanic.
I don't know why it's satanic. I mean,
That
maybe
is
because
so crazy.
its tail does look like a leaf, so I
Right.
get the leaf-tailed part. The only thing I can think is that its eyes are kind of like white glazed over. Maybe that makes it look satanic.
Don't give me evils.
Yeah. And then the last one is a fluffy-backed tit babbler.
Sorry?
Fluffy-backed tit babbler. What do you reckon that is?
I think that's like a Monty Python swear word. That's what you call someone in a fit of rage. You'll be driving down the road. You fluffy backed tit babbler.
Yeah.
I love it.
What do you think it is, though?
Hippo. No, I don't know.
Fluffy back. It's a bird.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
That is the best.
The fluffy backed tit babbler.
And you slippery dick.
So there you go. That
Wow.
was instead of.
I don't even know what to say about half of that.
I know.
So next time you're angry, right? The next time you're angry and someone's giving you the evils on the bus, just in your head, you fluffy backed tit babbler.
Exactly.
Perfect. None of you are fluffy backed tit babblers, slippery dicks, or dick dicks, but I do hope that you are listeners and that you'll come back next week for something completely different.
Definitely.
This ends our trilogy. I've quite enjoyed it though. It's memory lane.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff. Lots of stuff. But all right. Thank you for listening to us as always. Do the usual. What's the usual?
Like.
Go on then.
Subscribe and share.
Yeah. Like, subscribe and share. Please do. It helps. It really does. And if you're on YouTube, there's another button as well you can press. It's the hype button. I don't know if it helps, but it's there anyway. Looks pretty. Maybe it doesn't do anything. Maybe it is a fluffy back tit babbler, but we'll see. But with that, we shall leave you in peace, and speak to you very soon. Until then.